The federal opposition has finally found a line of attack on the Prime Minister. It's ramping up pressure on Queensland MP Mal Brough, Malcolm Turnbull's Special Minister of State. Last month, federal police searched Mr Brough's home amidst allegations he'd tried to obtain copies of the diary belonging to the controversial former Speaker Peter Slipper. It's a bad look for the government, as the Special Minister of State is meant to be responsible for the Parliament's integrity. Labor says it shows poor judgment from Malcolm Turnbull and that Mr Brough must stand down. Here's political correspondent Sabra Lane.
Hasn't the minister misled the Parliament?
There is absolutely nothing untoward about these matters. Do go on in your year of ideas.
Isn't it time the minister resigned?
There was nothing inappropriate about me having any diary notes, or has that slipped your memory?
Mal Brough's been under sustained attack all week, and the Prime Minister has landed in the political maelstrom, back from the Paris climate change talks, straight into the opposition's campaign for a ministerial scalp.
Censures the Prime Minister for his complete and utter failure to show leadership and sack or even stand aside the Special Minister of State from his ministerial responsibilities.
The man at the centre of the storm sat on the backbench, exactly where the opposition says he should stay. The opposition's censure motion never had a chance of success, as the government has a clear majority of MPs in the lower house. And it used its numbers to gag Mark Dreyfus and silence his seconder, Tony Burke.
A minister's now allowed to lie to the Parliament.
The member for Watson needs to second the motion.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I move that the member be no longer heard.
While there's been no adverse findings against Brough yet, the weight of evidence that's mounting up against him is significant, and we've got to remember that other parliamentarians have stood aside when they're under investigation without charges actually being laid.
You, Prime Minister, run a protection racket for the current Speaker.
The origins of this trail all the way back to 2012 and the days of the minority Gillard government and its decision to install the former Liberal MP Peter Slipper as the Speaker of the House to shore up its numbers. James Ashby, a former staffer in Mr Slipper's office, allegedly accessed and copied Mr Slipper's official diary without authorisation to prove Mr Slipper was dishonestly using cab charges. Mr Ashby later launched separate legal action against Mr Slipper, claiming sexual harassment. The Commonwealth ended up settling that case for failing to provide a safe workplace. In gathering information about the misuse of travel entitlements, Mr Ashby sought guidance from Mr Brough, who was about to launch his bid to re-enter federal politics.
Did you ask James Ashby to procure copies of Peter Slipper's diary for you?
Yes, I did.
The Special Minister of State gave the impression yesterday that he'd been misrepresented in that 60 Minutes interview.
What was put to air was not the full question.
But the full question didn't materially change anything. It simply edited out some stumbles.
Why then also did you did you ask James Ashby to procure copies of Peter Slipper's diary for you?
Yes, I did.
For the opposition's Shadow Attorney General, a QC, it was evidence for standing aside.
He appears to have misled Parliament.
The pressure prompted Mr Brough to give a statement to Parliament this morning, a qualified apology of sorts.
My recollection of the interview was that the question was put to me in a somewhat disjointed manner, and I answered the question without clarifying precisely what part of the question I was responding to. I have taken the opportunity to review the tape and transcript and apologise to the House if my statement yesterday unwittingly added to the confusion rather than clarifying the matter.
What I was reminded of today when I was in the Parliament for Mal Brough's non-apology reminded me of Bronwyn Bishop on the Saturday at the press conference during Choppergate, where her explanation just made the problem worse. And today, Mal Brough reminded me of that. Now, Tony Abbott held on to Bronwyn Bishop for too long, at a great personal and political cost to himself. Malcolm Turnbull needs to consider that when he considers what action should be taken against Mal Brough.
This isn't just about Mal Brough, it's about Malcolm Turnbull too. The opposition's not been able to lay a glove on Mr Turnbull since he became Prime Minister. Labor says Mr Turnbull's displayed atrocious judgment by appointing Mr Brough Special Minister of State in charge of upholding parliamentary integrity. A plum reward, the opposition argues, for helping to oust Mr Abbott in the coup.
I have not misled the House. I treat every question seriously and I answer honestly.
Curiously, Mr Brough recanted the answer he gave 60 Minutes.
I ask the same question that was asked by Channel 9's Liz Hayes on 60 Minutes. Did you ask James Ashby to procure copies of Peter Slipper's diary for you?
Mr Brough said yes to Liz Hayes. Today it changed.
No.
Why hasn't the Prime Minister sacked the Special Minister of State?
Guilt or innocence is not determined by public denunciation, here or anywhere else.
Prime Minister, isn't it perfectly clear, because the Special Minister of State misled the Parliament yesterday and again this morning, he should be sacked immediately?
Simply asserting that somebody has misled the Parliament does not make it so.
A second censure attempt failed during question time. Anthony Albanese led the defence of the Gillard government during the Slipper appointment.
I've seen before governments gag oppositions. What we've seen today twice, and we've seen all week, is the government gag themselves, because not a single minister is prepared to stand up in defence of Mr Brough.
The Prime Minister is backing the Minister for now, but he's given himself wriggle room, saying if new facts come to light, he'll examine them. The police have searched Mal Brough's home, but it could be months before the investigation's finalised, meaning this could hang around for a long time. And Labor's yet to target Wyatt Roy and Christopher Pyne, who've also been named in police documents.
I don't think Turnbull has any choice at all but to cut him loose, and cut him loose as quickly as he can.
Ross Jones has written a book about Ashbygate. He says Mal Brough, James Ashby and the LNP had one aim in pursuing the former Speaker.
Their motivation was to get rid of Slipper as quickly as they could, get the numbers, get back into power a year early.
The government will tough it out for one more day. Parliament's scheduled to rise for the year tomorrow.